Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Free Thanks to Karen. A couple of years ago, I scheduled my semi-annual dental cleaning. I arrive at the clinic a couple of days later, thinking it's going to be the usual routine. Nope. My appointment was at 4:30 p.m. The dentist closed shop at 5:30 p.m. I was already there at 4. I always make sure to arrive at least half an hour early to make sure I'm on time. The reason being, my dentist is a stickler for the 15-minute rule. If you are late 15 minutes for your appointment, she'll move on to the next on the list. This particular day, the lady, henceforth named Karen, before me was a no-show. So I walked into the clinic with the dentist doing nothing. Since I was last on her list, my dentist figured she'll just take care of me first and do Karen after, if she ever shows up. Sometime later, Karen does show up and speaks to my dentist's assistant. "Oh, I was late because yada yada yada." At this point, the dentist has already started with the plaque removal on my pearly whites. Karen was asked to wait as she was moved to the last of the list because of her lateness. Now, her being moved is already generous. Normally, she'd be asked to reschedule for another day, even if my dentist still had time to check her out. But of course, Karen was furious. Didn't think it was fair that her spot was given to me, considering she scheduled that particular time, despite being at least 40 minutes late. Still, she sits down and waits, albeit with the attitude of a kid who was just told no more ice cream. Now, the clinic itself was small. It was basically one big room with a smaller room, where the dentist did her work. The outer area served mostly as a waiting room with 2 desks tucked in a corner. The couch where patients sat faced the entrance of the smaller room, offering a partial view of the inside. The operations room was always kept open for proper air circulation. Its walls were also only semi-opaque glass, so I could clearly hear whatever was happening on the outside and see fuzzy but still distinguishable outlines. Every few minutes or so, Karen would talk loudly about things taking too long, etc. She would also constantly take a peek at what my dentist was doing. Then she said something like, "My god, couldn't this guy get any slower? If I went to Dr. X, I'd probably be done by now." I guess the comment about the other dentist being faster ticked off my otherwise patient dentist. The dentist noticeably froze and narrowed her eyes. She straightened up, did a second of thinking, bent down to me and whispered, "You don't need to pay for today if you play along." So I did. I was done with work anyways. I only scheduled a dental cleaning for that day, but she also filled up my cavity, took an x-ray of my teeth and proceeded to explain what she found on the x-ray. All this she did in an exaggeratedly slow way. Easily stretched things out until closing time. So Karen had to wait, only to be told that she won't be seen that day. The best thing was that with every peek, she'd see my dentist going comically slow. She obviously tried to complain, but my dentist simply just told her if she had only arrived on time, then she'd be done already. Closing time was closing time, she'll have to reschedule. I lingered a bit, just so I can watch. In the end, Karen left with a sour face, and my dentist just laughed. I later found out that Karen never returned to the clinic. Didn't hurt my dentist's business one bit. And I got my teeth looked at for free thanks to Karen. The next story is called Because Rules. Many years ago, I attended and graduated from a culinary institute. The program was for professional cooking. It was a lot more than just learning to cook though. It also had classes about menu planning and creation, restaurant management, finance and cost analysis, etc. It was more of a program to teach you how to be a chef and run a restaurant. Being that it was a professional program, there were some very strict policies. When attending classes outside of the kitchen, there was a uniform to wear. When classes were in the kitchen, there was another. Hat, jacket, neckerchief, apron, pants, non-slip shoes. While in the kitchen, no jewelry or piercings could be worn, no nail polish either. Men had to be clean shaven, no beards or mustaches, even stubble was not allowed and hair kept tidy. I saw a guy use a kitchen knife to cut off his dreads when they stuck out of his chef's hat. One policy was time and attendance. Classes started at a specific time. Not a minute later. When the start time came, the chef would close and lock the door. There was no leniency. Public transit late due to a snowstorm? Not valid. What really made this worse was to graduate you needed to have a certain number of hours in the kitchen. If you were a minute late and were not allowed into the class that day, you would then be missing those 5 hours and would have no way to make them up. The only reason that was accepted to miss a class was with a doctor's note. With a doctor's note, you then had to show up an hour early each day for 5 days to prep the kitchen to make up the missing hours. I lived a bit more than an hour away from the school by public transit. Some classes started at 6 AM, others at 9 AM, others at 1 PM. Getting to the early classes on time was always a pain, especially making sure I was early in case of any delays. For the 6 AM and 9 AM classes, I would usually shave the evening before. No big deal, I had no issues doing this for at least a year. One day, partway through a class that had started at 6 AM, the chef stopped me and asked if I had shaved that morning. I told him honestly that since I had to be up at 4 AM to make it on time, I shaved the night before. This was unacceptable to him and I was sent out of class. He did tell me I could return once I had shaved. He probably expected me to go home and not return for the day. There was no way I was going to have to fight to make up hours over something so trivial. I left class and found the closest convenience store. I purchased the cheapest plastic disposable razor I could find and travel-sized shaving cream. I went back to school and proceeded to shave my face in the men's bathroom. By the time I was done, my face was bleeding all over. My skin irritated so bad. I stuck little pieces of toilet paper on all the spots I was bleeding. I put my uniform on, walked through the school, right back to the kitchen and continued on what I was doing. The look on the chef's face was great. How professional do I look now? I would love to say that the policy was changed or that he let up a bit, but no. He simply told me I looked ridiculous and to go back to the assignment. The third story is called A Doctor's Way of Malicious Compliance. I was off work with a long-term issue that was being investigated by my GP and the hospital, back and forth for tests. My employer started being annoying. So I insisted that any communication about my health issue should be done formally through the occupational health. This way the proper recommendations were given for return to work when I was finally fit enough. They asked for my complete medical history. Now I'm a woman in my late 40s at the time. This is a long history which I don't want them to see. I tell them that I don't see the relevance of my bronchitis when I was 14 to my current issues. They say it's non-negotiable if I want to see the occupational health team, and refusing to cooperate could lead to dismissal. So I go to see my GP to get test results and tell him what they are insisting on. He smiles and tells me he knows what to do, as he has done this on countless occasions when employers have tried to exceed their remit. So he says, "What you write on the piece of paper you have there?" He points to the document. Have you got a pen?" He hands me a pen. "Is that you give permission for all relevant records relating to your current issues to be shared by your GP with the company's occupational health team?" I write this, he checks what I have written and then takes a scan of the document for his system. He then annotates my records in my presence, telling me what he is writing with the words, "Only share information regarding current sick leave and nothing else. All reports sent to be seen by GP's name before sending." He turned to me and said, "That will show them." And it did. The occupational health doctor was more than happy with my GP's confirmation of my issues, and my boss and HR had to kick rocks over it. I knew that my boss was trying to find a way to get rid of me after I had worked for the company for over 10 years. To wit him. I refused to take his BS excuses for delaying projects, but there was no way they were getting my complete medical history. I also spoke with my union, and they said that they would back up my GP's stance. When my boss tried to push it again, I told him to speak with my union solicitor. He backed off. The last story is called The Proper Size. I recently purchased a pool table from a very well-known online vendor. A week or so after making the order, my pool table showed up on 2 pallets. One of the pallets contained the actual table pieces, the legs, sides, frame, pockets, etc. The second pallet contained the 3 pieces of slate, weighing roughly 650 pounds, give or take. A few days after receiving the shipment, the pool table installer showed up to do the installation. However, he quickly realized that the company had sent me an 8-foot slate for a 7-foot table. A very quick bit of background for those who are not aware. Slate is heavy, bulky, extremely fragile and thus very expensive to ship. I called the company and informed them of the error. Then they stated that they would ship the new slate out on Monday. I called on a Friday. After a few minutes on the phone, the customer representative and I did some quick calculations. We realized that it would be much more cost effective for the company to simply send me the actual 8-foot pool table rather than pay to have the 8-foot slate shipped back and the new proper size slate shipped to me. Although we originally wanted the 7-foot table, because my fiancé and I like to play pool at bars and that is the standard bar size, we did have the room for an 8-foot table. Because of this, I was fine with them sending the 8-foot table instead. After all, the price difference between the 2 sizes was around $100. We had almost finished finalizing everything when the manager got involved. Cue malicious compliance. The manager got on the phone and informed me that he had no intentions of upgrading the table size for free, and that he would send someone to pick up the original slate pallet and drop off the proper size slate. The shipping for the table was free, so the company had paid all original shipping costs, around $1,200. Now they are paying another shipping cost, around $800 to get the original slate back, in addition to another $700 to $800 to ship the new slate. The pool table itself was under $3,000. The company has now spent nearly $2,800 to send me a roughly $3,000 pool table. To add insult to injury, because I incurred a $200 fee from the original failed install, the company had to also credit me $200. In total, the company has not only lost any kind of profit from the table, but has actually spent more money getting the order right than the original purchase price. By comparison, had the company simply sent me the 8-foot table, it would have cost them another $300 in shipping. In total, to ship the new table pieces and return shipment of the original table. I now have a beautiful 7-foot slate pool table, and the company is out around $3,000. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.